Welcome to the session. Topic of this session is variations in agricultural environment. We know that the agriculture is a key for the growth and development of a economy, for a growth and development of a country. And the agriculture is important because it helps in the development of other sector. Actually, we know that the development process start with the development or with the growth in agriculture sector. Whatever the small saving we have in agriculture sector, we start investing the saving in the other sector, manufacturing sector, and we start the manufacturing sector, and then in this way this cycle start for the growth and development of the economy. And the development of agriculture, it may take different path based on the availability of the resources like land, labor and capital. Different countries have different type of production technology, different type of production process. So development of agriculture may have a different path, and the other factors which also affect the growth of agriculture sector is the availability of the investment for the innovations or technology development, for the institutional development. So these are the other important factors. Then the institutions like research institutions or infrastructure availabilities or credit institutions, these are the another important factors which affect the agriculture process, development of agriculture, and so there is a need to have the innovations in technological innovation, or we need to induce the institutions to contribute in the agricultural process. So these are some of the factors which affect the growth or development of agriculture sector. So in this session basically we will be discussing, we will be learning how the agriculture development is affected with the availability of the resources or with the resource endowment in the country, or the other environment like institutional availability or the research environment or extension environment. All these affect the process of the agriculture development. And general theory of economic development, particularly we know that the Rostow theory make it very clear that the agriculture development is important for the start of economic activity, for the development of other sectors, because agriculture development help in the building up the precondition for the takeoff of the economy, and it help in the transformation of the socio-economic structure of the country. And the public policy is important to facilitate this process of development, this process of transformation, from the prehistoric agriculture to the modern agriculture to the industry based economy. So this process, and so there is a public policy basically help us in this process. And the degree of agriculture development is influenced by the variability of the resource endowment. So how much resources in the form of land or labor or water and other factors we have. So all these affect the degree of agriculture development in a country. And the objective of this session, here we have learning objective that we will be able to learn or we will be able to explain the variation in the level of agriculture development as dictated by the factor endowment. So how the factor endowment dictate the agriculture development in a economy. And there are various theories are there, and the Borsov theory of agriculture intensification is an important theory, and basically it explains the evolution of agriculture based on the resource endowment in the country, particularly consider the land and labor, and basically this theory talk about the ratio of the land and labor. And the cultivation become more intensive with increase in the population density. So this is the one of the basic idea of this theory. Initially, land is not scarce. We have abundant land initially, but when the population grow, with the population pressure on land is there, we invest more. We use more persons on the land, and slowly the land become scarce resources, and we employ more labor. So the producers are compelled to shift to intensive cultivation to meet the growing demand for food, because after we have the population increase in the economy, actually we need to go for intensive cultivation to meet the food requirement in a country. And the cultivation with more labor per unit of land when the population grow, and the intensification of the agriculture increases the land productivity. We produce more per hectare of land or per acre of land, but it reduces the labor productivity, because we are employing more labor, because there is a abundant labor available in a society, in a economy. And if actually the household, they have to work more to maintain their living standards, because labor productivity is less. And with this continuous rise in the population, and which causes changes in the cultivation practices from handhold to the plow. So actually we have to move for machinery or other technology to get more production or to get more productivity from the land. And here we need investment in the land improvement, like use of organic or organic fertilizers or irrigations we have to do. So according to this WhatsApp theory of the agriculture intensification, population growth is the main cause of the agriculture growth, because land is limited, and when the population grow, we need to go for intensive cultivation methods. So it increase the productivity of the land. So that's why there is a development in the agriculture sector. And there are certain weaknesses of this theory, like this theory assumes that the population growth is exogenous. It is in automatic process or some outside pressure. The population is always grow, but today most consider it endogenous, because it is being influenced by the economic region. And increase in population could be delayed by late marriage or birth control measures. So we can control the the population growth also. That measures are available. And second weakness of this model is, in this model consider only the land and labor as a factor of production, but there are other factor of production are there, like role of modern technology or capital. So not much emphasis on the modern technology or capital, and these are the basically important instruments of agriculture growth presently in the modern society. Then another important theory is the high payoff input model, and this high payoff input model emphasizes the role of investment in modern input and their supply. So this model basically talk about the use of modern inputs in the transformation of the agriculture. And T.W. Such basically he noted that the traditional farmers of our country, they are efficient, they are rational in resource allocation. They know how to do work in efficient manner, or they know how to allot the resources in a rational manner, so they can get good yield or good return. But they are lack in the technical and economic opportunity. They don't have much opportunities, and they don't have much technical information about the agriculture in the traditional society. According to the IPF input model, actually we need to enable farmers to improve their farming system and living standard. And for this purpose, this model recommends that we need to have supply of new technologies and inputs, and actually we need to create new economic opportunity in a society. This model defines the high payoff inputs as a capacity of the research institute to generate new technical knowledge, or as a capacity of industry to develop, produce and market new technologies and inputs. And also it also say the high input is the capacity of farmers to acquire new technologies or utilize new input and efficiently. So this model talk about the role of the research institute or the industries or the farmers in generating new technology or new technological knowledge, and also role of industry in producing and marketing of the new technology and input, and the role of the farmers in acquiring this new technology, utilizing this new technology input in the farm. And so that's why this high payoff input model talk about the investment in agriculture research and human resource development that enables to produce improved technologies and increase labor productivity. So that's why there's a need to have investment in agriculture sector, particularly on the research aspect or human resource development. So we can produce the new technology for agriculture sector, and we can increase the labor productivity. And such investment basically improve the supply and prices of modern input also, which ultimately determine the growth of agriculture sector of the poor country. And here shows visualize the higher productive capital equipments and other input as a source of new high payoff inputs. And this model is also criticized as it failed to explain the mechanism by which resources could be allocated among the non-marketed or non-traded public goods such as the education and research. So basically this high payoff input model, he talk about the investment in the technology or knowledge or modern input, but this model do not explain how to allocate the resources in the non-marketed or non-traded public goods like road infrastructure. That is not there in this model. Then another important model is the induced innovation model, and here the Hyami and Ratan in 1985 they proposed that the induced technology and institutional innovation in agriculture influence the process of development. So basically the Hyami and Ratan they explain the role of the technology and institutional development in the process of agriculture development. And this technology and institutional innovation basically take into account the 4 interactive factors like the resource endowment, the cultural endowment, technology and institution. So these are the important factors: how much resources we have, what is the culture of doing the activities or behaving in the activity, what are the different technology available, and what are the different institutional available. So these 4 interactive factors basically they affect the induced technology or the institutional innovation in a society. In the induced innovation model, Hyami and Ratan basically they argue that the technological innovation start with change in the relative factor scarcity. So they explain the role of the scarcity of the factor of production or factor of the like resources availability in a country. So and this scarcity is basically reflected through the relative price of the factors. So if the cost of land is increasing, it means we can say the land is becoming scarce resources in a society, or if the wages are increasing, we can say the labor are scarce resources in a society or in an economy. So basically, according to this Hyami and Ratan, the technological innovations start with the scarcity of a particular factor of production or of a particular factors like land or resources. So here the agriculture science they need to respond to the factor scarcity. If land is scarce, so we need to develop such technology which can provide more production from the limited the land, or if the labor is scarce, so the technology should be developed to have more production from the limited labor. So, agriculture sciences, they need to develop or they need to make available the new technology or inputs if there is a particular factor scarcity is there. And this technology basically, the input basically that enable farmer to substitute abundant factors for scarce ones to take their advantage of. So, if there is a land is scarce resources, the technology should provide so that we can use more labor and we can have more production in a agriculture sector. So, it help us to farmers farmer to substitute abundant factors for the scarce one. And according to this induced innovation model, the institution changes is induced to capture all gains that new technology could produce. So, when the agricultural sciences, they develop the new technology, and actually the technology have certain advantage to have more production or more productivity, and to capture this advantage we need to develop we need to provide the institutional support to the farmers so that the farmers, they can capture all the gains which are available from the new technology or from the new input. For example, if we have the labor scarce situations, here farmer substitutes machinery for human labor. So, if there are labor is not available, labor is scarce, then we substitute, we use more machinery to undertake the farm practices in the field. If land is scarce situation, if land is scarce in the society, then we have to use the land saving technology or inputs that enhance land productivity, and actually this new technology are substituted for the land, like we can go protected agriculture if the land is scarce. So, based on the the availability of resources, we need to develop the new technology, and actually to take the advantage of this new technology, we need to develop the institutional resources, we need to bring the institutional changes in a economy. And this model, the induced innovation model, basically consider technical changes as an endogenous factors of development process. So, actually its technical changes is come within the production system, within the development process, because there are some resources which are getting scarce, and we need to develop the new technology, and we generate the resources from the development process, and that resources or return are used to develop or to use this new technology or to use new input in a development process. And technological changes is considered as a dynamic response. It is based on the situations, this technology also changes, and based on the change in the resource endowment, this technology may change, and this technological change also took place based on the growth in the demand, in which type of the demand is there in the society. If more quality produce is required, so technology will change for the production of the quality produce from agriculture sector. So, based on the demand also technology change, we develop the new technology. Here hear me and return use the productivity frontier, in which productivity levels are associated to the each employed resource endowment classification. So, actually whole process is explained using the production function, and here the Hami and Rutan, they explain they use the productivity frontiers to explain the gain from by using the different technology and with reference to the employed resources or employed level of the resource or the factor of production. According to this induced innovation model, we need to have investment in agriculture research, which is very much needed to develop the technologies appropriate to a country's natural and institutional environment. So, actually we need to have more investment in agriculture research, in the agriculture research, so that the research institutions they develop the technology which are appropriate to which are appropriate to the country's natural resources or the which are appropriate to the institutional environment, like based on the availability of the finance, based on the availability of the marketing facilities, and based on the availability of the farmers group also. And when we talk about the natural resources, like the availability of the land or water or labor, these are the very important factors. So investment in the physical and institutional infrastructure is needed to realize the new production potential opened up by the technological advances. So sometimes we find that there is a the potential yield is there, the actual yield is there. So in order to achieve this potential yield, and actually we need to have investment in the physical and institutional infrastructure in a country. And the diffusion of technology is also very important, and this diffusion of technological changes is affected by the changes in the relative price of the inputs and also the physical and institutional factors. This factor basically affect the productivity levels which are resulted from the changes in the investment. And institutional innovation aspect of the model emphasizes that the institutional changes is endogenous factor of the economic growth, and which is considered as an investment process entailing the resources just as in the creation of the new technology. Hyami and Rutan, they undertook the econometric analysis to test the theory of the factor substitution in two different environment. So actually they use the econometric methods, or they use the econometric analysis to test the theory of the factor substitution in two different environment. One is the labor scarce situation, which is the available in the United States. We have the abundant land there, but labor are scarce resources in the United States. And the Japan, where the land is the scarce resources, there is a limited availability to the labor. There is a limited availability of the land is there, but labor is there in the sufficient amount. So agriculture sector in both the country grew at a similar rates. In the United States, we have the sufficient land. In the Japan, we have the sufficient labor, and so, but in the both the country, the growth rate in agriculture is almost similar, and but they used the wide differences in the technologies and factor endowment. So they use different types of technology in the agriculture production process. So growth in the United States was driven by the mechanical technology. They use more of the farm machinery because they have the scale labor resources. In the Japan, they use the modern, or they use the advances in the biological technology to increase the agricultural production. And the Hyami and Rutan, they basically concluded that the change in the factor proportion during the process of agriculture development in two countries represent a process of dynamic factor substitution that lead to accompanying change in the production function, which is induced by the change in the relative factor prices. And this induced innovation model is also criticized for being too oversimplified. So in very simple way, this model explains the role of the technology or institution in development process of agriculture sector, and the impact of advances in mechanical and biological technology on the factor ratio is treated as if they are completely separable. So the Hyami and Rutan, they basically use they explain in the Japan and the United States and two different technology. Like in the US, he explained the role of the mechanical farm machinery, and in the Japan they explain the role of the advances in the biological sciences, and they treated these two as a separate technology, but they cannot be separable. They are used in combination for agriculture production process. And now we can sum up the session that there is a heterogeneous agriculture environment and resource endowment in the economies, and this heterogeneous agriculture environment and resource endowment, they set the path or pace of overall development, and they offer the opportunity as well as challenges for the developing country actually. So, best if there is a good amount of resources or are there, there will be more the more production or more development and based on the availability or based on the scarcity of the these resources, different types of technology are developed and they set the path for the agriculture development process. And many of the developing countries, they have recorded spectacular growth by exploiting these variations, and there is a impetus for the accelerating growth mainly come from the favorable agroecological genes, wherein a mix of modern inputs or technologies they helped in agriculture to achieve the high growth rate. With this, I thank you all.